We've all heard the news, the shipping containers stranded outside Los Angeles, the supply chain issues, the lack of truck drivers, the lack of workers everywhere. Avocados. This is not fake. This is not fake news. It's purchasing 2022. And if you want cups or French fries or sports supplies, you better get your orders in now. Eric and Josh from H&H join us today to explain the reality of the situation at hand. This is the Day Camp Pod. Welcome back to the Day Camp Podcast. I'm Andy Pritikin, director of Liberty Lake in the Philly suburbs of New Jersey.
I am Tiffany Vaughn. I am the founder of Purposeful Play, a day camp in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Chicago, Illinois. And
today we are joined by our friends, Eric Forte and Josh Cohen from H&H Purchasing, but more importantly to me, former camp guys, right? Recovering camp guys. Right. Found a way out, camp guys. Didn't have to deal with the pandemic, camp guys.
Oh, we
from
dealt
our
with it
end.
plenty.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, just in different ways, Andy.
Different ways. Okay, I got a little heated there. I'm sorry. All right, so Josh, why don't you go first? Tell us about yourself, how you ended up where you are, and all that.
Yep. So I started very young at camp as a day camper. Actually, as a side note, Andy and I grew up in the same town, and Andy knows my family well.
This is the most West Caldwell podcast that we've had at the Day Camp Pod. So
very proud representing the Caldwell.
Hey, Josh, we had a good rec program, by the way, in our town. I just want to give a shout out.
We did.
Right, as far as municipal programs go, we which one did you go to?
I went at Memorial Park, and
all right, I was Kiwanis Oval.
Very limited because being the youngest of three with older siblings that were already at sleepaway camp, I jumped into day camp as young as they would take me. So did my time in day camp quickly into sleepaway camp, did some team tour, bike tours, and then in college, while I was majoring in education, ended up going, again, connecting to Andy's camp from growing up, Mackinac, spent many years there as a counselor, and then went on full time. And then eventually my wife, Jill, and I took over Camp Cavesy up in Maine. And after a good 8+ years of doing that, which we loved, definitely aspects I miss at camp, we decided to hang up our clipboard and whistle, and something that we really enjoyed on the purchasing, and moved over to H&H, which is I think has been great, and we really have enjoyed being able to do what we do and still keep our camp experience in our day-to-day life.
That's nice.
Yeah. And we have 2 kids who are continuing. We have the traditional full summers in the Northeast 7-week campers that are counting the days the minute they get home, and a big part of their lives. And we're really big believers in the whole camp experience.
That's awesome. And Eric?
Very similar story here. From New Jersey as well, but Marlboro, so more central. I was a day camper at Pine Grove Day Camp. Not many people know that part. And then I went
Marty.
Marty back then. Exactly. Good memory. And then I went to Camp Canadensis as a camper, minus 1 year when I graduated college, and I went to Ernst & Young, where I saved up all my vacation time, and went back that summer while working at E&Y.
I love that.
Help at Canadensis, mostly on a volunteer basis, of course. An overnight camp in the Poconos, Pennsylvania. And then I left and went to camp full time, and I worked there for 14 years, doing the operations. So, all the purchasing, of course, and kitchen, everything. And then 6 years ago now, 6.5 years ago, I came to the dark side or the light side, and stay in the industry, which I absolutely love, and able to support camps through our work here at H&H, and absolutely love it. Moving to Florida as well, which can't really complain about on a year-round basis living in Florida.
Yeah, so you escaped camping and you escaped the Northeast.
Exactly. Although I have a 9-year-old daughter who complains that she doesn't get snow. So go figure. But when we're on the beach, I remind her that it's much better on the beach. And my daughter also, she's an only child, and the value of camp is amazing. And last summer was her first summer. She was supposed to go 2020, but we know what happened. And 2021 was just unbelievable with the relationship building and independence that she had as an only child. Was incredible, and can't wait to get back there again this summer.
That's awesome. All right, so the first open-ended question for you two guys is just talking to the people out here. So the people listening, right? we've been hearing the whispers, and some of our vendors have been mentioning stuff to it. But, I think just like I put this in perspective of like camp, meaning we're always telling our camp families, you better sign up quick. You're going to get closed out. Right. And for once, we're not full of crap. All right. We're actually serious now. Okay. I think you guys are sort of in the same boat. I think that people are hearing about this kind of thing, but they're sort of like, they just want us. They want our money right now. Can you just give people a reality check of what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head, Andy. And we've always asked people get earlier, and the earlier you can, it's always better. It's better for the vendors. It's better for you. But now more than ever, we really do believe it's going to be crucial. There will be products. Things are available, and the supply chain is trying to creep back up. But for everything that gets better, there's something new that pops up. And really, as we've told our members, we said that it's time to start ordering now. We've never done as many orders now as we have now. We don't suggest bringing in food now because of dates and spoilage and storage, but especially in the kitchen janitorial disposables, those are things that are hard to get. Try to get a plastic translucent cup right now. There are not many out there. And if you read the Wall Street Journal article last week, it's pretty grave news that highlighting Starbucks, and are they going to run out of cups at some point was the question.
Even the cone cups that the day camps use at the water stations, all those, you don't think about it, you take it for granted at times, but it's a challenge. And Andy, just to go back to what you said, what we're finding is salespeople at some of these large companies are not really being truthful because they're salespeople. And so as much as they want the sale now, for whatever reason, they're saying, don't worry, we'll have it when you need it, we'll get it. And the truth is, we just don't see that happening. And when you talk to the manufacturers, they're being more honest and upfront and saying, this is not recovering by summer. Little pieces of it will, like Josh said, and, there will be food on the table. There will be paint for your arts and crafts programs. There's no question, but it's going to be certainly more expensive and harder to get.
A lot of what we're hearing, and Eric, can speak even more. Eric's role is dealing day to day with our vendors, and we have over 100 vendors in our network. We are hearing, especially from the big ones, which we have to go by the most, a lot of recovery. They're looking coming out of the third quarter. That's the hope. The reality is, when they're telling us that means we're looking into the fourth quarter
after camp. Yeah.
Right.
And look, here's the bigger reality of it is, in the event that we are wrong, no one is going to be hurt by being prepared. And with the way inflation and pricing is going, chances are you're actually going to save yourself some money by getting in on the earlier side, because the price increases are coming in now more and more. And from what we're hearing over the next few months, we're going to see large price increases. We're seeing the major manufacturers send out letters to all their distributors saying this price increase is coming in across the board. This is, and it's supply chain. And there's a lot of other factors. You talked about avocados. Google the bird flu. It officially has entered the US. It's in Kentucky. They're hoping to control it. If it doesn't, we're going to have we already have a poultry problem. This is going to make it even worse.
Chickens. Yeah. So just so you guys understand, listeners, what H&H does, and I'll give them a chance to pitch themselves towards the end, but they are middlemen, right? So they're like Josh said, Eric's out there talking to 100 different vendors, getting the best prices and stuff, so that H&H clients can then have access, through a portal, through them basically, to get stuff. So these guys know what is really going on. So tell the listeners, because camp people are definitely the kind of people that want more information. Why are the prices going up? Like, this is not like arbitrary stuff, right? Like, yeah, okay, bird flu is the bird flu, but is it because minimum wage is going up? They can't find workers, they can't find truck drivers. Seriously, there's boats outside Long Beach, like as far as the eye can see. Like, what's going on? What's causing this?
Everything.
Everything you said and more. So there's a huge labor issue. The cost of labor is going up. Especially in the distributors, so your Cisco's, PFGs of the world, Reinhardt. One of the challenges they have, and the honest truth is, as we talk to kind of the titans of this industry, this was a reckoning that was happening anyways, and it was accelerated with COVID. Who in this day wants to show up to work at 6 o'clock at night and work until 6 in the morning and is working usually 6 days a week, and they were being paid well, but they just generationally, they don't want to do it. They don't have people that want to do this job anymore.
In a freezer, Josh, in a freezer for 12
in a
hours.
freezer that Eric and I have been in. And when we say freezer, we're not talking 0 degrees freezer. We're talking in the negatives where, they're bundled up. They have, it is not a fun job. Now they've raised, they give you an idea, from 2020 to 2021, an average warehouse worker. So this is the average across the US, which obviously you're going to have a pretty large span, went from the low $70,000 to almost $80,000 salary. That's a massive raise in that short period of time. Truck drivers, we've heard have been from the 80s. We're hearing in the Northeast, truck drivers are making close to $100,000 now. And what they're doing is they show up to work. You know what? I don't like what you said today. I'm just going to go to the guy next door and I'm out of here. And they're going to give me a bonus and jump on. Now you have this, and then this is kind of a cascading effect. So now you go to the manufacturers, your Tysons, your Chobani's. Well, one of the things that we're seeing is what's called Skew Consolidation. They're looking at their SKUs, and this is really important, especially to day camps, because day camps, at least in our members, are more particular about products than anyone else. This is my chicken patty. I have to have this chicken patty. We've served it for 20 years. Well, what these companies are doing is they're evaluating it and saying, you know what, we could make that, but our profitability on it, not so great. So we're going to discontinue it for right now. Let's move on to this chicken patty where we're making more of a profit. Our production costs are less, and then we're gonna cut it. And Eric, why don't you speak a little bit? I mean, on a daily basis, what he's doing in regards to SKUs being discontinued. I mean, Eric, is you can jump in on it, because it's like nothing we've ever seen.
Right. So we're seeing on a weekly basis in any one given warehouse. So, regional warehouse, there might be 50 or 60 items that they're telling us no longer available this week. And that's just items that are on our bid, meaning items that camps buy. We're not talking about their entire warehouse. And it's things like Frosted Flakes in food service, name brand Frosted Flakes in food service you can't get right now. You might be able to get it in the supermarket one week, and next week you might not. But in food service, you just can't get it. And so Gatorade.
Because why? Because the generic version is just cheaper and easier to sell. Like why?
Oh, why? No, that's from the manufacturer side. So the manufacturers have decided that instead of packing it in food service material, we're going to make more money packing it retail size, and we're just going to sell it to the supermarkets. I mean, they're not stopping Frosted Flakes, of course, but you just can't get it in food service. There's also just this large demand from restaurants, takeout. Products have shifted what people are buying. So obviously, PC cups during COVID still are in high demand. Little cups of syrup, little cups of cream cheese, a hot topic the last few months in the news. Why can't you get cream cheese? I don't know why you can't get cream cheese, but it's just these labor shortages are plaguing the country. And you talked about the containers that are stocked up. A lot of this stuff, if we go to the disposables categories, like plastic forks, let's say, and cups, and this gets imported from Asia. We just got through Chinese New Year, which typically halts production over there. In some cases, we heard stories of keeping factories open, but they're paying 3 times the salary to the employees over in Asia. But now they have a backlog from being closed from Chinese New Year, or they paid an exorbitant amount. They have to get it on containers over here, which the shipping costs are insane. It gets to California, let's say, and then it's got, for the Northeast camp, it has to get across the country. And again, trucks across the country are 3 times, 4 times the cost of what they used to be. So there's just these added costs in every step of the way. And there's no end in sight. We thought last summer we were seeing certainly some product shortages, but also some pretty major price increases. And at first we were like, okay, hopefully we're just going to get through this summer and it'll come back down. So a camp in July was like, well, should I stock up now for next summer? And we would, honestly, we said, no, well, they would have been good. And some camps are lucky that they just have a lot of stuff left over. And we're saying, keep that. That's like gold now. So,
yeah. And speaking of plates and stuff, now there's all these new rules, right, with styrofoam and such like that. And what we experience here is that for years, everybody was telling us to buy styrofoam because it was way cheaper than paper, even though it's, going to sit in a landfill forever and all that. So I was actually trying to buy closeout paper, but that's another long story. But now, like, you can't buy a styrofoam.
Right. Multiple states you can't buy foam, and the states that you can buy foam, those prices we're seeing at least 3 times increased as well. That the styrofoam is in line with the paper products now, or
Right.
close to it. Styrofoam has the advantage of being a little more durable and heavier duty, so that's a little advantage to styrofoam. But most states, not most, many states you can't use it anyway.
Yeah. Although what we found is that in New Jersey, there's nothing specific about camps right now, that schools are exempt.
Mhm.
Schools and youth serving things are exempt. So theoretically, we might be able to get camps, but it doesn't matter because we can't buy styrofoam anyway.
And
So-
New York, right? You
Can't
can't
get
get
it
it anyway. But
Yeah,
in
can't get
New
it
York, it seems like it looks like New York is not exempt, but that's for some other
Mhm.
podcast probably.
All right. So before we go on, I have to give some love to our friends at AM Skyer, one of our lovely sponsors. They are the leading insurance company and strategic partner for many of the finest camps in America. Skyer partners with camps to provide public relations, legal, medical, behavior support, and more. You can experience the difference at amskyer.com. And, for those of you that don't know anybody involved in AM Skyer, the 2 people that are pretty much running it right now is Jeff Skyer and Amy Skyer, and they're literally 3rd generation. And, in the camp industry, there's a lot of family businesses, and it doesn't always work necessarily through the generations. It actually works pretty well with the Skyers. They got pretty lucky. Amy and Jeff are both excellent, and they make quick decisions. They're young, they're capable, and they got institutional knowledge from the 2 generations behind them. And they don't have to answer to a board of directors or to shareholders. It's a family business. You can talk to the people in charge really super quick. So shout out to amskyer.com.
Can I give a shout out to Amy also?
Yeah,
Am I allowed to do that?
Of course.
In my 14 years at Canadensis, Amy was our main contact there, and Skyer did everything right by us. So
That's awesome. I appreciate that. So I also, we're giving shout outs. We're talking purchasing. I want to give a shout out to Crazy Eddie Horowitz. Okay, who sells athletic supplies, who has been calling my office every week. We're not going to have volleyballs. We're not going to have bats for your, sounds like him, right? That's a good
yes,
imitation.
good job.
Thank you. So my question to you guys is, what are the kind of things? Okay, not every camp that's listening, probably very few of the camps listening actually do food service.
Sure.
Right. So what are the things that we should really be focused on? Because what I've been telling people, t-shirts, get your damn t-shirts in. Right. What other things can you think of?
I don't want to create panic, but if you ask us for our members, we feel, now is the time to start getting orders together. I don't think you have to hit submit necessarily today, but assuming camps that are starting, let's just say you're starting by the end of June, normally a lot of those camps would start getting orders in end of May, beginning of June. When I was camp director, I was always even later. We're advising our camps to really have the orders ready to go, submitting by the middle of March into the end of March for delivery, starting as early as that, and then and taking deliveries. Now, there's 2 parts to that. One is what's going to be available. The big piece of that too is the prices. As we're seeing that there's going to be, as Eric just said, the cost of shipping over from Asia, it's going up, and most of the items that everyone's getting, the large majority are coming from Asia. So we're seeing those shortages. We're seeing transportation costs go up, and we want to get ahead. As former camp people, we understand the challenges, though. I think on day camp side, it's probably, there might be, I don't know if easier is the right word, but you guys generally are there, or at least you're able to get to the camp and see a delivery coming in and figure out where it goes, versus sleepaway camps have other challenges of it disappearing. So it's early, and we've always wanted people to do early, but we've never said it that early.
Well, this could be COVID silver linings for you, right?
That's the honest truth. What we see across all categories is that this was happening a little bit. It was getting towards this, and this then now just sped things up in a big way. And this is the way. We have a gentleman who works for us, Lawrence, who really oversees all of our program supplies, and he's calling us every day, this has been discontinued. This is that. Oh, hey, so and so they just got volleyballs in, and they're out there, and it's going to be using your normal resources. For our members, we're looking, and at the same time, we're also sometimes we're going and saying, hey, listen, we just saw this on on this website. Go grab it now quickly. Get your order in and see. Now, we've had people do that where all of a sudden they call us after the order gets confirmed, and then 2 days later they get the email saying your order will ship on July 25th, even though it said it was in stock and ready to go. But even Amazon, as we all saw, Amazon's Prime 2-day, at least internally here, we're seeing sometimes you order something, it's not here for another week or so, or longer, or you get an email saying, unfortunately, we don't have it anymore. So it's really, and that's the hard part, Andy. We can't say it's just balls. We can't say it's just basketballs. It's basketballs today. It's tennis balls tomorrow. It's paint, which is actually.
I was going to say field marking paint is like the biggest tip we can give you right now.
Yeah.
I've heard that. Field marking paint, order it now.
Order now. Any of the vendors will tell you if they have it in stock, get it in, put it in a dry, safe place. Because if you go into Sherwin-Williams, I can tell you right now, many of their paints that you can't even get them right now. They're going to tell you we're months and months out. They don't have the chemicals. They don't have what they need.
What are your thoughts on lining chalk versus lining paint? That used to be a thing.
We'll leave that to lime. You can use lime.
Well, is it lime? I don't even know what it is, but you used to actually buy that.
Lime.
Yeah, I had a head of soccer that limed the field and killed off the boundary. So that when the paint, and it was great, but the problem was he was professional when he asked, his assistant, guy, a counselor, 18-year-old to do it. Let's just say, we had some interesting boundary lines when the kids were running zigzags down the side. So. All
right. So better for the paint.
One of the things is just that we're telling our members, and it's applicable here, is become your own distributor. So, you're going to need basketballs. Bring them in now. Don't wait for your basketball director to come to you and say, in the middle of the summer, I'm out of basketballs. I think it's kind of common sense, but now more than ever, don't rely on that overnight delivery from Walmart Plus or Amazon Prime. Order it now and stockpile it. Keep it locked away. Don't let anyone know you have it. As we know in camp, this stuff disappears. But you have to be your own distributor. You have to have it on site.
And I think, and I'm guessing a lot of people who might be listening, depending on the type of day camp, if you don't own your property and you're renting a facility, sometimes that can be more challenging. That's where you really need to think outside the box. Is there a way to do it? Can you, as crazy as it sounds, do you have to rent a storage facility, just to do this, just to carry you over, for the next few months? There's nothing worse, as we know, as former camp people, the worst thing at camp is just not to have something, to be able to have 10 kids out there playing basketball and only 9 balls, and to have a kid go home and say to their parent, not explain it, just say, Mom, I had to sit on the sideline because they ran out of basketballs. That's awful. And obviously you don't have the narrative to try to explain to the parent, no, we did, and we're, whatever was happening. So whatever you can do to think, we have consistently been telling our camps, storage, figure it out, whether it's dry storage or refrigerated freezer, you got to work on something. You got to figure out a way to help yourself and do exactly what Eric was saying, make it available for yourself to pull so that you have your own warehouse essentially.
Yeah, I have a couple things. So I'm very interested, Eric, from way back in the beginning, you mentioned some time at E&Y. So I'm a CPA, and so the big accounting firms always draw my interest. But as you all are talking about ordering in advance, the concept that pops in is just like just-in-time ordering. Like people always try to optimize their cash flow, so we're doing this just in time. And Amazon has really spoiled us to the fact that like this is the way of life. We've always held this microwave mentality, but I guess recognizing that prior preparation is needed in order to do best. So I love that. The other thing that popped into my mind when Andy was talking about AM Skyer was this about insurance brokerages. And so it seems to me, and I could be wrong, but like when you talk about your business model, you're really the brokerage, like between the camp directors and the suppliers. And so what sorts of items do you do though? Like, so do you do everything from basketballs to food to like, what is the gamut of it? Because when he started talking about food, and I keep getting hungry every time I look at his background. When then you start talking about basketballs, I was like, oh,
Right.
okay. So what is this like? Is it like the Uline catalog of things? Like you can get anything, or
So
like,
yeah,
what is your-
so actually, on your first point, just a quick thing that popped into my head, there are certain vendors, because you talk about cash flow, there are certain vendors I think that are notorious in the camp industry that are big supporters of camps that you can possibly work with on your cash flow. So you can still get your orders in. They may even still deliver it to you and extend your terms a little bit more because they understand your business. And look, that's what, that's why you might pay a little bit of a higher price, but you're going to be guaranteed for the relationship. But anyway, to your second point, yes, we started out as a company that was mostly based on food and kitchen related supplies, but we've expanded greatly, and we basically will work with our camps on anything from mattresses and bedding to shower curtains to office supplies, athletic supplies, medical supplies, COVID testing last year. We'll help with any purchasing. What we tell our member camps to do is call us first before you buy anything. We might end up at Uline or Amazon Prime or Webstaurant for some of the small wares, but we'll help guide you on where you go. Not to talk about our company too much, but our camps pay us a fee up front, and then we are working for them versus other GPOs where you make money on the purchases. So we truly are just trying to help camps. Kitchen equipment right now, lead times are 9 months to a year on fryers and ovens and things like that on names that you've heard of, name brand items. So we're trying to help secure anything at any price level for anyone that we can right now, to ensure they're able to run.
We just bought 2 Vulcan ovens. It was like having
Right.
a baby. We needed 9 months.
Right. Unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
No, I love that. I love the business model. To be honest, I'm always interested in different types of business models that really serve a need. And so personally, I moved twice in the last 18 months. Hellacious.
Oh gosh.
But on my way out of Milwaukee, I was balling on a budget, right? So I had maybe I was really balling because I had movers come in and they packed up all the stuff and they just took it to the other house and they put it together.
Wow.
And then I had this lady come over and I was just like, I just want it to be pretty. And I told her what I liked. So kind of like what you're saying, that your customers can do. And then she came, she painted the walls, she bought the pictures that went on those, she did all the things. But when I had to move back from Chicago, I was like, okay, we're not going to do, that was cute.
Right.
We're not going to do that again. So on the way this time coming back, I did a bunch of the things myself, just horrible. So I love the idea that I can just call you and be like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I want. That was a great experience, but not a cost efficient one. So
but in our case, it is cost efficient because we're also then taking the value of hundreds of summer camps nationwide and going to the vendors and negotiating discounts on their behalf. So it's both.
Right.
It's both.
So it's a bulk. You're getting the bulk pricing. That's awesome.
Right. And I also, going back to, as we said in the intro, Eric and myself have camp experience. My wife who runs the company, with me as well, she has a ton of camp experience. Almost everyone who worked here has some type. So when we're giving a recommendation, we like to say we wear multiple hats. We're telling you on the purchasing side, cost, on availability. We're telling you as former camp people, and now as parents with kids at camp, we give a third opinion of what it's like, which has been different, being that we were on the other side for so many years. But we feel our recommendations not always about price, and there are times that we might recommend you take something that's a little more expensive, because you're going to get PR from it, whether it's a food or an item that has a branded item, so that the kids know. Usually not campers, more of your 18 to 20-year-old staff who seem to be the experts on everything. So we give that advice and help our members make decisions that are not only going to save them money, but help them, do what they're trying to achieve, which is make camp better and have a better community experience.
Right. I mean, we've talked about a lot of this kind of thing on the podcast before. You have these companies like Campminder, Camptivities now doing programming, AM Skyer. When you're part of an organization that has all these camps, you inevitably, one of the byproducts is getting the best practices and finding the best products that they're using. That's one of the benefits. And a lot of camps sort of operate in these silos, and they're trying to do all this work themselves that they don't have to, be doing this
Exactly.
work, Tiff touched on something about like, how places want to, order things at the last second, right? It not only is it a cash flow thing, it's also a human thing, right? Most people study for their test the night before the test. That's just the way it is. So to get people to start purchasing earlier is going against human tendencies, right? You're fighting the human aspect of it, What people think is in their first quadrant that needs to get done right now, right, does not include ordering things for the summer. So we have to sort of break through that, right? And get them to realize it. If they haven't been watching the news, I mean, it's everywhere.
Well,
it's
that I will say one thing that we, first on that, we totally agree. It's changing a behavior that we've all had. We also get, again, as camp people, you can't get everything for your programming now because your head of art might not, really have time to look at it until, May or June. But we all know, you're going to need a certain amount of paper, a certain amount of paint. The items that you're ordering every year consistently, those should be easy to kind of check off and do. But, I think it's getting that mindset, getting people to understand that. The one thing that I think there's a silver lining now is last summer, the supply chain issues were not really showing up in the news to the level that people understood. We being Eric, myself, people in our office, when we would, talk to any friends or family, telling them the horror stories about what we're seeing, and they're saying, what are you talking about? I haven't seen any of this. My grocery store is fine. I got chicken in my grocery store. Well, now fast forward, when last week, my sister lives up in New Jersey, calls me and said, I'm sitting in ShopRite and there's no chicken. What's going on, Josh? Why is this happening? What is going on? And so it's not good for everyone. But if the silver lining is that everyone is seeing it in their everyday life, whether it's the directors who now say, you know what, this isn't fake. We know this is happened last year. Now it's happening even more. And hopefully on the parents' side, which I know they're not always so forgiving, but I think there's an understanding. Day camps again, and I know again, a lot of you don't do food, but day camp menus for us tend to be as the strictest of all of our camps. Very hard for them to go, if they do print the menu and send it out, to say we're serving this, and then that they don't, because the kids plan their day and parents might have to do something to make sure that the kid's going to eat right at camp, and younger kids. Well, we're seeing more and more of our day camps put notices on their menus. Please understand, we might have to change. We'll do everything we can to get it. In the past, they were probably, they would tell us they were scared if they ever had to do it. It was like the end of the world. Last summer, parents said, we get it. We understand, just get food on the table, and so I think there is some good things that are going to come out of this, the ordering early, getting people to understand more. But the behavior definitely, it has to change. And I don't think personally, and when I say I'll speak for our company, we don't ever see this going back to the way it was. It will push back, and there'll be definitely some things they're going to do, and technology is going to help things in a lot of ways. But the days of ordering today for tomorrow are long gone, and I don't see that coming back unless there's a major premium eventually that you're going to pay, that you can have, the platinum level where they'll be there and pay.
Makes sense. And we saw this when the recession hit in like 2008, 2009. People were waiting for things to snap back, and then they realized, nope, ain't snapping back. And this is just another one of those things right there.
Yeah, I literally did a talk the other day, like we're not bouncing back, we're springing forward. How it was is not how it's gonna go, and really just, think about like goal setting and things that you want to do to like advance your life. That, like, I always tell my kids, like, prior preparation prevents poor performance. I'm full of alliterations all the time, and I remember that being told to me as a kid, and it goes with this whole thing, like you need to be prepared to consider being your own distributor. And we were talking about the storage thing. So I was a camp that didn't have my own facility at first, and now we do, but we used to rent those pods. So like those little storage things that you keep out, like right outside. And so that's an alternative for day camp owners who may not have their own space, to think about wherever you're renting. Usually if it's a school or something, they have some grounds where you can store like a pod, and therefore your stuff is accessible. It's not an offsite, storage facility. Correct. And you can get them in all sorts of different sizes. And oftentimes, for me at least, when I was starting out, now, 7-8 years in, I have a lot more guts than I did when I started, but I'd be like, I don't want to ask them an extra thing, but when you are renting a space, you are providing revenue for that space. So ask the question. You're no more closer to no than you are when you don't ask. So when you don't ask, you're giving yourself a no. Consider those portable pods, and maybe that's an alternative so that at least you are prepared.
Yeah, and if you have the space on your facility, I mean, if you got to do pallets and tarps, like you got to do what you got to do. Got to get through this. All right, before we finish.
We like to say, if there is a type of person that's going to figure this out, we truly believe camp people are the ones that are going to do it. You every day at camp, you have to think on your feet and you have to make a decision, you have to change. And that's really, what we're asking of everyone.
And we do have to frame it the way Tiff said, that this is springing forward. And Josh and Eric have both said it too. What COVID did, and we've said this before on the podcast, it just expedited things. It didn't set us back. It pushed us forward. And this was all bound to happen. And now, we popped the zit and it happened. All right. It's coming. So before we finish up, I want to give a shout out to CRS, Commercial Recreation Specialist. My man, Rich Wills, he was at ACA National. I saw him there. He will be there at Tri-State, the legendary company that is the ultimate middleman company for all the stuff that Eric and Josh don't sell. For the big stuff, for the big equipment things, for the big pieces. And one of the things that CRS has that I bought, which was good because I don't have a PA system at my camp. I bought a emergency alert system that allows us to broadcast, not microphone, but different sounds, different alert sounds. So we have a lost camper drill sound. We have a scatter drill sound. We have a come back to everybody sound, if we wanted to use that one. And we position this in the middle of camp, and it's got the big horns up there. And I have buttons in my office and a little dial thing, and I could do it from there. And in this day and age, we need that. And it's a big difference between a lost camper drill and a scatter drill. You don't want to get that messed up when it happens, if and when it happens, God forbid. So check them out. CRS, Commercial Recreation Specialists. They are the fine purveyors of the best recreation solutions to keep camp going strong. Check out their website at crs4rec.com. CRS is serious about fun. All right, one quick question before we get to a heavier question. Chlorine. We heard there's a chlorine plant blew up. I don't know. I'm here. It's turning into old wives' tales at this point. What's the story with chlorine? We're going to have it in our pools.
You know what, Andy? We do most areas. We don't do so much with chlorine because it's usually local to where the camp is.
Makes sense.
But we heard that as well. I think that it seems to have been coming back though. I think that was kind of a short-term thing, but I don't know.
Yeah, I hope so.
And as the year-round Floridians, we're not hearing that in our news. Right. Everyone,
right. Well, that's good. You guys are ahead of the chlorine curve, certainly. All right. So then, anyways, so the last big question, we were touched on this before we got on. So we actually did a podcast, Tiff and I, with Aaron Greenberg last spring, and it was all about how not-for-profits should be more like for-profit camps and thinking about how to run your business like an efficient business, right? But yet you guys were mentioning, sort of joking around, but also serious, that during this crazy time of purchasing, it's time now for for-profit camps to start thinking like nonprofit camps when it comes to purchasing. So can you go explain that a little bit? Because I think it's a great point.
Yeah, I think everyone has to think about, finding the right products. And I would say, sometimes nonprofits, and we say this in a nice way, when they're making their decisions, it's a different economics decision. When you're the for-profit, everything, a penny saved is a penny earned. And that's great. But in this day and age, while you want to save that money, it's going to be utilizing who you have and who your local people are, and finding the product you need, and sometimes leaning on those local ones a little bit more, and maybe having to spend a couple of dollars here or there where you're not, and getting the value of what you need. So I think it's a balance of both. And trying to, we're not saying just go out and spend to spend, but I think you have to look at things and be more systematic, and have a system in place to accomplish that. So you're getting what you need.
Yeah, here are these private camps who most did not open in 2020. Then they opened limited in 2021, and granted, a lot of them got PPP money and stuff that kept them going and all, but still, they're more cost conscious than ever before because they're forced to being that. And now minimum wage keeps going up, right? A beginning counselor at Liberty Lake is making, a group leader, like 18-year-old, is making over $3,000. And I was talking, when we talked to my friend from Cactus Day Camp in Arizona, they're making like $3,600 there to start with, right? So it's exorbitant. We have to think about ways to be saving money. And it's very easy for private camps in the past that have been like, yeah, but I like these kind of whatevers. So just get them. I know it's $5,000 more, but just get them. But all that money adds up. And when you're trying to, how am I going to run camp when it's $15 an hour minimum wage? How am I going to run camp when they doubled the cost of my whatever, fill in the blank, right? We have to start looking at all these different things here. And purchasing is just the hugest area. We see it with, when we look at our bills at the end of the summer and we're like, what the heck happened here? Oh, our program people ordered all this crap on Amazon in July and August because they were like, holy crap, we need more whatevers, you know, and we need it in a day or two, you know?
And I think, you know, and we see it in nonprofits because they have more systems in place. You know, how can you buy something? You can't just go on Amazon and buy it. You have to go through a system. We actually have a system that's built in our proprietary software that helps with this, where, you know, your head of art can go on, get the order ready, but when they hit submit, it's not submitted. It gets sent to someone for review, either for an approval or a transfer cart, and then they can adjust. But, you know, I think, and I can tell you as a, you know, former private camp guy, you know, here's the credit card, go out, which was great. And I'd get the things, but, you know, we always tell everyone, you know, the run to Sam's Club or Costco to get, you know, 20 items, and all of a sudden the bill comes back and there's 50 items. Well, we didn't need these. I think that can happen less in the nonprofit world. I think that a lot of the for-profit camps have always been worried about, well, no, you know, we want to, you know, we don't want to, you know, look, you know, that we're cheap on things and that we need this certain level. Coming from for-profit, and Eric, I think you would say, you know, as we tour camps, both, you know, day camps and residential, I was amazed my first few nonprofit tours, they far exceeded anything I saw at any of the
I think that one of the reasons is because they treat purchasing like a big business. You know, even if they're a small business, they're usually part of a bigger entity, right? And you know, just like camps right now are getting serious about hiring, and camps are getting serious about HR and who does the hiring. And you'll come across even a small camp and they'll say, oh, well, this is Jimmy. All he does is hiring, right? Like they're dedicated to it, right? I remember when I first got into camping 25 years ago, that Ramapo had that guy, the Dutch guy, I forgot his name. It's the two initials, JC. Great guy. And all he did was purchase. That was the main part of his job for one camp. And I was like, wow. And they're like, trust me, he saves so much money on things. Like, it's really important. It pays for his salary, you know? And I think that now that we're hitting this weird time with purchasing, it's more and more important. And I think a lot of camps don't have someone dedicated to it. Right. And that's why H&H is great, because you're basically outsourcing it in a way, you know, through a portal. But a typical camp has to give more resources to it, which means paying someone, and that's part of their job, right?
Because the director is dealing with so many other things now, you know, COVID related or not. And so to do centralized purchasing, you need somebody else that you can appoint that's filtering through these requests. And, you know, like you said, our system is one of the many tools that we offer, but just having somebody centralized at the camp that everything has to filter through, because I don't think that these activity directors, area directors are trying to extort you or take advantage of you. They just want what they want when they want it. But you as the owner or director, you know, executive director, need to have a handle on this kind of stuff.
And it's just a matter of bandwidth. And I think that one of the things that the pandemic is also doing for camp operators, it's getting them to understand that and to rationalize that I only have so much bandwidth. And like you said, Eric, it's 100% true. We have way more to worry about these days: regulatory things, COVID things, et cetera, staff issues, right? So, you know, what you're seeing is people either outsourcing more to these third-party companies like H&H for this specific thing, purchasing, or dedicating the personnel to it. It's got to be one of them. It cannot just be lumped on that list of 52 things that the director person is doing, because they ain't going to get to it. It's going to end up being like Tiff said, they're going to order it the day before and wonder why it didn't come. Right.
Absolutely.
So in a way, COVID silver linings.
Absolutely.
Or order it the day before and pay triple the price. So one way or the other, you're going to pay. It's like the false illusion that I don't want to pay a membership because we're just going to be on time, and then you run out of time and you're just like dead, and there's a book. I always have a book too, that like something about finding a who can do, and like how great is it to have a person dedicated to this that you don't have to pay unemployment taxes for, that you don't have to put on your payroll, that you don't have to house, that you don't have to manage.
Josh is smiling. That's part of his pitch.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, that's, we feel very strongly about it.
I mean, it's a thing. And also it puts your staff, if you think about it, puts your staff in a position where they're planning earlier, right? So like your activities are planned earlier. Like, so it's like that pause that allows you to plan out things that'll make things much smoother on the back hand side. And if this activity wasn't planned and we don't have the equipment, then we're not doing it. But and so that'll create this space where like, well, the kids aren't having as much fun. Well, then you need to plan. So I think it's a genius idea. And I love the fact that you all are camp guys. So that means that you should know the things, right? Like, oh no, we don't need that. You should be, I'm assuming there's something that can point people towards best practices or best products.
Absolutely.
Or, that's what
and we know when to bother directors and when to let you guys go. We know when it's important enough to nag you and let you know what's going on.
Not calling a day camp at 12 noon. That's what you're trying to say in the middle of the day.
Exactly.
And we never tell someone they can't have it, unless a director gives us specific instructions to say, I don't want to, don't let this person order anything except for what we've agreed upon. We always give them the information. And at the end of the day, they make their own decision, but we want them to make a decision that's going to work the best for them and for their camp community.
So send all the H&H information to Matt, in that attachment I sent you to the show notes, right? So we can get it all in the show notes. But you could just tell people who are listening right now who don't hit the show notes up, how do they find you guys?
Yep. So you can check us out online, hhpurchasing.com. Our website is pretty on the front end, is a very basic kind of informational, because most of our members are really at this point, we have a huge word of mouth membership. And that's how we've generally grown it. We have, and we're always happy to show and demo, as you had mentioned, we have a proprietary system that allows our members to shop many of the vendors that they're used to shopping at. The difference is we have a bid program. So when they shop for, let's say it's a TF 1500, Spalding basketball, they're going to see every vendor who carries it, and they can order it from the one that's the least expensive. Or if they know this vendor, is a faster shipper, they can move it to there. And the big thing about H&H, we like to say, we save our members money. We do it in a way of convenience because they're able to put everything in one place and not have to go website to website. And then going back to kind of what we were all just talking about, we add these controls in so that whether it's an owner, a director, an executive director, they can know that their purchasing is being done with confidence, that people are making right decisions and not just kind of, the easiest way to do it. They're doing it in a way that, they're getting what they need, but they're being smart about it.
And Josh mentioned earlier that, or Eric did, that they pay a fee, that the organizations that sign up with them pay a fee. That fee is based on what you will purchase and what your revenue is and things like that. So it's very fair. So a small nonprofit will pay a lot less than a big private camp, right?
Correct.
So you all understand that. And Josh, just one last question. What will the setup look like at Tri-State, given that we're coming back from the COVID and all that kind of thing? Because H&H, the last 2 years, 2018, 2019, they had the most prolific Tri-State booth where you could have just hung out there and eaten for a while.
And many did.
And plenty did. We and I think Samara ACA will tell you, we think we probably fed 90% of the people, unless there was a food allergy or a specific issue. Amazing brownies and blondies, I have to say. And we're very happy to do so. The good news is we will be back. We actually have our 8 booths again. We feel very strongly as camp people now more than ever. We're committed to helping the camp community. I was just out and kept my booth at Nationals, and Jill and Eric and we made a decision very early on to say we're going in big and strong, because we know you have helped support us as camp directors and owners, and we need to support you and know the importance of this. So we will have it. The big change that we will have actually lots of things to taste and look at, just because we didn't want to be the ones that, someone says, well, I was in the H&H booth and I got sick, if God forbid that happens. We're just not going to we will not have our guys flipping hamburgers this year. We're limiting it to prepackaged foods so that people can come in. We're going to have some other samples of things to see and try, but we'll still be there, and we'll have a kind of an office area to demo our software. As we're in the process of finishing up a huge upgrade to the user interface that we're extremely excited about.
Awesome. So if you're interested, hhpurchasing.com. Thanks a lot, Josh and Eric. I appreciate you guys being here.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
I love an innovative approach to camp, right? I love Camp Done Different. So I am kudos to this business model and the help. And yeah, if you don't get your supplies, you better be planning for a bunch of no prop, low prop.
Hey. Maybe we should just call this podcast "Don't Say We Didn't Told You So." We want to thank the Go Camp Pro team, AM Skyer, commercial recreation specialist, for allowing us to bring this podcast to you. If you like what you hear, you should subscribe to the Day Camp Pod on your favorite podcast platform. Check out our show notes from this and other episodes at daycamppodcast.com, as well as contact info for our show, our guests, and for me and Sam and Tiff. Thanks for listening and making yourself a better Day Camp Pro. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode of the Day Camp Pod.